First 30 days are not a warm-up. They're not orientation. They're not a trial period. They are the foundation for what you are going to do this year. And everything you build for the rest of the year sits on top of what you are doing right now. Education needs people who are truly present, not just in the building. I'm Edward DeShazer, and welcome to Homeroom Attendance. Your seat is saved. What's going on, pod? Welcome to Homeroom Attendance. I am your host, Edward DeShazer, and today I am asking, are you present or are you absent? If you have not, before we get into this episode, as I always ask you to do, please take a second and leave a review. It doesn't have to be a comment, like a typed out review, but just leave a review on your podcast platform. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the little thumbs up button down there. Subscribe if you haven't. Truly appreciate it. And share this with an educator that you think can find value from it. Let's begin. So first question I want to ask you is, when does your school year actually begin? And before someone says the first day of school, I want you to think about that answer a little harder, because what I would argue is that the school year doesn't necessarily begin in a moment. It begins over a period of time. After being in education for 2 decades, it's crazy to even say that out loud. The first 30 days of the school year are the most important culture building window of the entire year. It's not just the first day, although that day is so important because it's your first impression with how kids are going to feel. It's not the first week. It is the first 30 days. That is the window where norms get established, where relationships get formed, and the unwritten rules of your building begin to get written in permanent ink. And a lot of schools, I guess I can't say a lot of schools because I can't speak on a lot of schools. I know there are schools that treat this window like it's a warm-up. They spend it on logistics, locker assignments, getting schedules right, getting kids on the right rosters, handing out the syllabi, going over your rules, reminding students what they can and can't do, and all of this stuff has to happen. But logistics are not culture. And a building that spends its first days on logistics and calls it an orientation has just told everyone that is inside of it, students, staff, what this place actually prioritizes. The first 30 days don't set the tone for the first month. They set the ceiling for your entire school year. Let me tell you what I believe the first 30 days are actually for. They are for answering 3 questions that every single person that walks into your building is asking. Students are asking them, staff are asking them, the parent who dropped their kid off and drives away hoping for the best are asking them. The questions are, do I belong here? Am I safe? And does anyone actually see me? These are not soft questions. They are survival questions that our brains are wired to try to fill in the blanks and answer when we are in environments. Until a person can fully answer all 3 of them, it is very difficult for them to do their best, whether that is a student learning, whether that is a teacher teaching, or a parent parenting. A kid walks in your building on day 1 carrying what could be a tough summer. Not every kid has a great summer break, and I think it's important as educators that we understand that. Some did have a great summer, and some of them had a summer that we wouldn't wish on anyone else. And they walk through your door with all of it. They're watching every adult interaction, every hallway moment, every morning announcement, every first impression, trying to figure out whether this place is going to be different from what they've known before. And they figure it out faster than adults probably realize. Kids will make their determination about a new environment within the first few days, not weeks. And once that determination is made, it is very hard for us to reverse it. So the first 30 days are not a warm-up. They are the verdict, and the adults in the building are the ones who are writing this verdict out. Now, think about it on the staff side. A teacher walks back into their classroom after summer with a set of expectations, a level of hope, and a certain amount of residual weight from whatever was left behind last year. They are also asking those three questions. Do I belong here? Does anyone see me? Am I safe here? Even if they've been in your building for 15 years, because culture is not something that you build once, it is something that you maintain. And the first 30 days of a new year are when your people are watching to see whether the culture they signed up for is still the one they're walking into. Your staff needs to answer those three questions too. And if you are a leader who only thinks about the first 30 days in terms of your students, you are missing the important half of the job. I truly feel that the best way to put students first is to put teachers first. So school leaders that are listening, does your staff belong here? Do they feel safe here? Does anyone see you? It is critical that they can answer those three questions with a resounding yes, so then they can make sure that those three questions get answered with a resounding yes for your students. So what does an intentional first 30 days actually look like in a school? Because I don't want to just kind of give you a window, but I want to give you something to do with it. Number one, lead with relationships before you lead with rules. I know the argument against this. There's always someone that's going to argue against this. You have standards, you have expectations, you need the staff and students to know what norms are from day one, and I fully agree with every single bit of that. But there is a sequence. There is a sequence that works, and learn how to say this word. There is a sequence that works, and a sequence that doesn't work. And the sequence that doesn't work is leading with a list of consequences before you've given anyone a reason to care about meeting your expectations. I'm going to say this again. The sequence that doesn't work is leading with a list of consequences before you've given anyone a reason to care about meeting your expectations. Rules without relationships produce compliance at best. And compliance is not culture. Compliance is what people do when they're being watched. Culture is what people do when nobody is watching. Compliance is what people do when they're being watched. Culture is what people do when nobody's watching. And if you want a great culture, you have to build relationships first and let the rules live inside of those relationships. That means that the first week should have more conversations than announcements, more getting to know you than going over a handbook, more investing in people in front of you than covering yourself with policies behind you. That is true in classrooms. This is true in staff meetings. This is true in professional development. It is true in every interaction that the front office person has when someone walks in, as a family walks through the door. It is true in every interaction that we are going to make. Second one, be intentional about your first touch points. Every person who walks through your doors in the first 30 days is having a first impression that will last. And first impressions are not made by a mission statement on your wall. They are made by what actually happens in the first 30 seconds of contact. What does a student experience when they walk through your front door? Is it a hello and a hi, how are you doing, great to see you? Or is it get in a straight line, catch a bubble? Is someone there to greet them by name? Or are they walking in the door into a building that feels like it was designed for adults? What does a new family experience when they call the front office? What does a first year teacher with you, maybe not first year overall, but maybe it's just a first year with your building? What do they experience in their first staff meeting? Those moments are for culture far more than anything you put out in that opening week newsletter to your families and staff. Walk through your building like you're a first-time visitor. What do you actually see? What do you actually feel? What do you actually hear? What does this place communicate to someone who doesn't know it yet? Because that experience is the one that your students and families are having. And it's worth knowing what it actually is, feels like, hears like, smells like, and not taste like. But third, name the culture you're building out loud, early and often. Culture doesn't become something real until it gets named. You can have the warmest, most connected building in your district, in your city, in your area, but if nobody ever puts words to why it feels that way and what makes it that way, it stays invisible. And an invisible culture is a fragile culture. It doesn't transfer from person to person, room to room, hall to hall, and space to space. It doesn't replicate. It disappears the moment the people who are holding it leave. So I want you to name it. In your first staff meeting, say out loud what kind of year you are committed to building. At our school, our theme this year is from great to greater. And from great to greater, that means everyone has to do their job to the best of their ability on every single day. It doesn't say that they have to give everything their all, just the best of their ability. And your ability on Tuesday may look different than your ability on Wednesday. But that is what we named out loud early on. In your first week of class, tell your students directly what your room is about and what they can expect from you as a teacher, not just the rules, but the promise. What are you promising the kids in your classroom? Because a classroom with a promise from a teacher is completely different than an environment with a list of consequences from a teacher that are on the wall when people walk in. So I need you to name the culture. I need you to repeat it, and I need you to live it where they can see it. And let the first 30 days of your school year be the proof. You can't post a mission statement on every wall in a building, but culture only becomes I'm sorry, let me rewind. You can post a mission statement on every single wall in your entire building of your school. But culture becomes real when people can feel it when they walk through the door. Mission statements in a handbook, mission statements on a wall don't mean anything when the building feels different. Now, I want to zoom out for a second and talk about something that I don't think gets talked enough in the first 30 days. The first 30 days are also when your hard to reach students are making their most important decision about you. These kids who came to you with a reputation, the one who bounced between buildings, the one who's suspended, the ones who have a folder thick enough to be its own fire hazard, those kids have been through enough first days of school to know exactly what they're walking into. They've learned through experience through their experience what most schools do with kids like them. And they are watching from day one to find out if you're going to be different. And they're not going to tell you that. They're not going to walk away or walk up to you and say, I'm going to test you to see if you're actually going to meet it. They're going to push. They're going to poke. They're going to do the things that got them removed from the last 3 places they were, because that's the only data they have on how adults respond to them. And your response in those first 30 days is going to either confirm the story that they've been telling themselves, or it's going to challenge it. And this connects directly with the believement gap. The gap is what we assume about a student based on their record and what the student is actually capable of when someone decides to believe something different. The first 30 days are when this gap either gets wider or starts to close. You don't close with a program. You don't close with a policy. You close this gap with consistency, showing up the same way on day 3 as you did on day 1. Greeting that kid the same way on a Friday when they've been difficult all week as you did on Monday when you were fresh walking in. Refusing to let their past become your expectation. That is the work, and it starts the moment they walk through the door. The hardest to reach kid in your building is not waiting to see what programs that you have. They are waiting to see if you are going to treat them differently than everyone else did. And here's where I'll land this. First 30 days are not a warm-up. They're not an orientation. They are not a trial period. They are the foundation for what you are going to do this year. And everything you build for the rest of the year sits on top of what you are doing right now. So I want us to be intentional. I want us to lead with relationships. I want us to walk your building like a first-time visitor. Name the culture that you're committing to, and show that hardest to reach student something they may have never seen from an adult in a school before. Show them that you have already decided to believe in them before they gave you a reason to. That is the work of the first 30 days, and it is the most important work that you are going to do all year. If this episode hit for you, please like, please subscribe, please share, send it to your staff. Next week, we are going to be talking about what happens when your energy from August starts to cool and the building starts to hit its first real test. So that's an episode you're going to want in your back pocket for October. But you have been present for homeroom attendance. Class is dismissed.